Hey everybody, welcome to Cycle News. Just topped off a surprisingly good bike. Didn't think I would enjoy it as much as I did. This is the 2022 Honda CB1000R Black Edition. Now the CB name, if you've got even a passing interest in motorcycling or motorcycling history, you'll know the CB name is as iconic as it gets for Honda. That's where the original CB750 superbike came out. That was the beginning of the superbike era. I still think the Kawasaki Z1 is the first real superbike, but that's an argument for another day. But the CB750 sort of spawned what we know as Honda is today, the big powerhouse that Honda is. And it's great to see that they don't give up on their history. The CB1000R itself came out about 2008, and it went for about 10 years before it was, even thought to be sort of touched with. 2018, I think, was the first update that we got, and that was a big change. Styling, different tuning for the engine. It was still the same motor. The engine actually can trace its heritage back to the 2004 Honda CBR1000RR, that very first under-seat pipe exhaust superbike that Honda made. That was their sort of arrival in the 1000cc superbike game. But in 2021, actually, so the model that we're testing today is a 2022, but 2021 is the same bike. Comes out with the Black Edition. Now this thing is black. I know that that's a very obvious thing to say, and I normally don't like black bikes. They just don't do it for me. I tend to think they kind of hide the good bits, the aesthetic good bits that you can get with a modern motorcycle. But the Black Edition, it looks pretty damn cool, I gotta say. Like the highlights that they've done are really classily done. The spoked wheels, the 7-spoke wheels that they've got are just beautiful. Like those multi-spoke wheels that they have, and the chrome little indents that they've got on the wheels, the little chrome accents within the engine block as well. It's a really nicely made motorcycle. So from 2018 onwards, there's slightly different engine tuning bits and pieces, but the big thing for 2021/22 is that it is now Euro 5 compliant, which means it's basically compliant pretty much everywhere in the world. It's basically the same mechanical platform that you had back in 2018. You also get redesigned headlights, so the headlight tilts back now. It's like a really pretty LED daytime running light design. Slightly different seat unit, slightly different radiator shrouds, but it's pretty much the same bike as what we had before. It's a styling exercise, this one, and look, I've got to say I'm pretty stoked with it because it performs really, really well. When you're riding the bike, now a few people that I've taken this bike to, the first thing they look at is the tank, and you can't blame them really, because it does actually have a tank that's kind of reminiscent of the original CB750 back in 1969. A modern interpretation of it, obviously, but it has very big indents in the tank, and I'm still not completely convinced with it. I've got a bit longer legs than I guess the average, and I always like to be able to tuck myself in, but I found that I was kind of sitting on the edge of the indents, which doesn't bode well for really, really long rides. Short rides, it's fine, but if you're a little bit shorter than say 6 foot, 5'10", 5'11", you'll be fine. It's not going to be a drama. The ride itself is very good. It's quite a neutral ride position in comparison to the other super nakeds that you get out there. Like actually, before I go on, this isn't a super naked. This is not something that's going to go against something like a Ducati, Street Fighter, a KTM Super Duke, a BMW S1000R, a Aprilia Tuono V4. Those things are in a separate category now. This one is alongside your MT10 from Yamaha, which is a brilliant bike, your GSX from Suzuki, just those kind of things, bit more of a lower end. Hence, it's actually interesting, they're all from Japan and everything else is from Europe. So there's been a bit of a divide, obviously, in naked bikes in the last few years. But yeah, the ride experience itself is very good. Honda's claiming 143 horsepower with this thing. I don't believe it's got that. I think it's fairly less, but it's geared quite short. Now, I'd prefer to have slightly shorter gearing than copious amounts of horsepower, because you're going to lose your license on the damn thing anyway. You can lose it just as quick on this as you can on a Street Fighter. But it has a huge amount of punch out of corners. Like, the thing will loft the front wheel really nicely. It's got plenty of mid-range torque, but it also has really nice character when it's, because of that shorter gearing, it has really nice character when you just want to cruise around to the shops. I would come out of my driveway, and just cruise along. 6th gear, easy. And I really, really enjoyed it. It's got a slightly, you know, abrupt throttle response in sport mode. So you get 4 modes. You get sport, rain, sport, road, and rain. But you also get user, which is a combination of those 3 modes. So, I mean, I wouldn't call it a 4th mode effectively, but you can choose your traction control, you can choose your engine brake control. Incidentally, just like the CBR1000 from 4 or 5 years ago, the wheeler control and the traction control are linked. I hate those systems, I always have, but this one seems to be pretty good. It'll allow you to sort of carry a front wheelie just a little bit, but like that old CBR, when that system does kick in, it literally kills the drive, kills the power, and goes and then it catches up again. It's almost like it takes a little bit of time, like for the front wheel speed sensor to sync back up. I don't know what it is, but you'll have a second or two where you've got no drive, and then it takes off. Easiest thing is to just switch everything off, and then you can do whatever you want. Now this bike costs $12,999 here in the United States. It's pretty good value, I've got to say. You know, sort of up against your Yamaha MT10s in terms of value, and your Suzukis are a fair bit cheaper actually. But overall, it's pretty good value. You get a beautiful quick shifter, yay. You know, if you've watched my videos recently, you know I've been piping on about bloody quick shifters of late. Doesn't have heated grips, doesn't have cruise control. That's a bit of a bummer, got to admit. But I don't really think you're going to go doing mega long trips on these things. This thing's a bit more like a Mazda Miata or something or other, like a little zippy fun thing that you can go for a bit of a fang on. But yeah, it is a really nice bike. It's got a great engine. The suspension is conventionally adjustable, fully adjustable on the fork, preload and rebound on the shock. It's pretty much all you'll need, although the shock I find is quite soft. Incidentally, the weight position, the weight bias is actually more towards the rear than the front, so it does have a bit of a slightly lazier initial turn in, and when you get on the gas, you've got to be a bit careful not to let the thing run wide, as it takes a bit of that a bit of that weight off the front wheel. But look, overall, it's a really, really good bike. It's a really strikingly good looking motorcycle, I've got to say. Like, I sort of was quite surprised at how much I've liked it. And I think it looks better over the time that I've been riding it, because I'll be sitting there and you go to a cafe or whatever, and I'm like, all right, that's a good looking bike. They've done a really good job with that, and a little bit understated. Not many people know about these bikes. So yeah, it could be something that if you're in the market for a naked bike that isn't gonna just like rip your head off like a Super Duke or something like that, which, let's be honest, they are fairly niche within niche bikes, those things. This is a bit more of a user-friendly, wider application naked bike. So yeah, something maybe to look at. But yeah, quite a good bike from Honda. I was quite surprised.